Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to talk a little bit about the future. Yes, looking beyond the next Godzilla and Kong movie. I know it's way too early, but it is something that we do discuss from time to time because there's always that dark shadow above our heads. There's always that little peek around the corner. Is this the last Monsterverse movie? Is this the last Monsterverse movie? And this is something that I always keep in the back of my mind. I kept it in the back of my mind for Godzilla vs. Kong. And for a moment there after the movie released, I really did think it was it. I mean, you guys remember on Twitter when they did that whole thing thanking all the directors, and they were just so quiet. And when they did speak, it just gave like the end vibes, you know? And then, of course, we hear the news much later and we're all relieved. But now the question is, we're on the next movie. And now we wonder, is this the end? And we are pretty well aware that Legendary is pretty much making their decision based on how the movies perform in the box office. And I can understand that. It's not like they could take the Marvel approach and plan 5 years ahead in order to kind of solidify their universe. No, this is something they have to take by movie. And this is one of the reasons why we didn't get an end credit scene in Godzilla vs. Kong. They after King of the Monsters, they're probably like, all right, let's give this one final shot. Let's see if that was a fluke, and let's see how this one performs. And considering how well Godzilla vs. Kong performed, I think they kind of figured out where their bread is buttered. And whether you're a Kong fan or not, the truth is Kong is the butter in the Monsterverse. Godzilla is the attraction, but Kong brings all the people to the yard. So you know what I mean? And I think that's why when you saw the Godzilla vs. Kong movie, it was obviously very focused on Kong and his story. And we've talked about this many times on stream, but Kong is the catalyst to connect the audience to the movie because Kong can deliver that connection unlike Godzilla. You know, Kong has always been shown to be that monster that the audience can not directly relate to, but at least understand him enough to have some kind of, you know, relation to, you know, how he's feeling, for example, or the expressions he makes on his face. Now the fact that he can use sign language. So it is easier to tell a story using Kong. And I think that's why in this next movie, you're going to see a lot of that again. We're going to see Kong exploring his home, growing there, and Godzilla will be the cameo main attraction monster. And that's probably the best way to go forward if there's going to be a chance for this movie to go forward, because audiences love Kong. You know, Skull Island, up until Godzilla vs. Kong, still remains the top grossing film in the Monsterverse. And Godzilla will always, don't get me wrong, I mean, he's an attraction in and of himself. But I think the idea of seeing them together is what really probably blew the lid for some people. There were a lot of people against them teaming up. And I think once they did, people were like, all right, this is actually pretty cool. So if there is life beyond this next movie, it's gonna be with them together. And I think that may be good enough to buy at least another movie after this, if not two. The question is, how do you end this? When it does come to an end, how do you end it? And, you know, believe it or not, it may not come to a complete end. I think when they do decide to stop doing these movies, I think it's going to be an open end. I think this is something that they'd be willing to revisit some years down the line. But there's also a chance that even if Godzilla goes away for a while, that the Monsterverse carries on through Kong. Now, one interesting thing that I want to note, if you have the art book for the movie Godzilla vs. Kong, then you know that towards the end of the book, or if not even the last page, they said in the book that they have many different, and this is true based on what we've spoken about before, and I'm paraphrasing, but they have many different directions they can go and many different movies they can plan with all the lore they've developed. And again, that's paraphrasing. Essentially in the book is what they're saying is they have a lot of content. they have a lot of ideas and a lot of plans. And I think they're more than willing to execute these plans in cinema. Now, they did also mention in the book that this also includes comic books, possible TV shows, which obviously we have one now. So, you know, when you think about how they're building and even in some ways ramping up, because the television show is new, we still haven't heard anything about the anime for Kong on Netflix, but supposedly that's coming. It seems like they are ramping up content for the Monsterverse, and they're not just exclusively keeping it to theaters. Now, this could be a good thing in the sense that, all right, we're doing good. Monsterverse is healthy. Let's do a TV show. Let's do an anime. Let's do another movie. The flip side is, okay, we're not going to be able to do these movies forever, but we do have a good enough fan base where I think we can carry on the Monsterverse in television, streaming, or in comic books, or in other media. So I think the chances of a Godzilla, another movie after this one, is probably better than the chances that there was another one coming after King of the Monsters. I think King of the Monsters was, you know what? Let's give it one more shot. Let's do this Godzilla versus Kong thing, and we'll leave it at that. And I think when they saw the success of Godzilla versus Kong, they said, okay, what are some of those other plans you had? Okay, let's go with one of those and let's put them together again and let's see what happens. And I think that's where we're at. I think that's where it is. I think we're at a point now where, I mean, it's always been a one movie approach, but I think we're at the point now where they're kind of realizing that they have, you know, or at least they've realized they have something here. They're developing a TV show. You got the anime. And I think if this movie, it wouldn't surprise me if this movie ends up having an end credit scene. I feel strongly that they're probably for the first time that the chances of a movie after this one are pretty good. And I think doing well at the box office will only solidify that. I don't think people got enough Godzilla and Kong action in the last movie, believe it or not. And I think this one's going to do well. And I think that has to do with the fact that these two have always been pinned as enemies or bitter rivals. And now knowing that you're going to go into this movie and they are going to team up, I think that is appealing to a lot of people. Probably appealing to more people than we're giving it credit for. So, yeah, I mean, I'm always going to have that dark shadow behind me, and I'm always going to peek around the corner, you know, expecting the end. But I do feel more optimistic that we're going to get one more after this next movie. Now, how do you end this? I've always been of the belief that you end this with a heroic Godzilla death and you leave it open-ended. And the reason for that is, look, Toho's going to want to do Godzilla movies. They're already working on Godzilla projects with the Gigan and Rex, and I kind of feel like they've been testing the waters with different things over the last couple of years. We had the Smog Monster short a couple of years ago. We had another Gigan short, I think it was last year, and now we're getting another one. I kind of feel like they're testing the waters here. And again, they do have that movie that they've been working on since, I believe, if you watch my last video, I put a snippet up. But they did start filming a kaiju movie that's based in 1945 to 1947 Japan. And apparently they started filming this February 22nd. And my belief is that if it's a Godzilla movie, that's going to be revealed over in the Godzilla Fest on November 3rd. So, you know, and again, even if Godzilla were to part ways with the Monsterverse for a little while, I do think Kong will be the one to carry the torch. So yeah, I would say that if we got one more movie after this one, it'll probably be like a Destroy All Monsters type thing. This is something that I think has always been in their writer's room. This is something that Gareth Edwards mentioned even back when he started filming 2014. And I think knowing how popular that movie is, even though it's very flawed, I think that's something they would try to do, especially if they're going to end. I guess what I'm saying is I believe when Godzilla's run in the Monsterverse is over, it's going to be with a Destroy All Monsters either movie titled that, or it's going to be a Destroy All Monsters-esque kind of movie. So essentially, if we get that in this movie, then you know what that means. But but anyway, yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, the future is definitely looking brighter than it did in 2019, and even to some extent 2021, because again, it felt like for a while there that they were going to hang it up, but they're not, and I think that's a good thing. So what do you guys think? Do you think we're primed for another movie after this one? I know it's way too early to tell, but I'm just kind of looking at the signs here and kind of taking into account what was said in the art book, taking into account we got a TV show coming, taking into account we still have a Kong anime that we haven't heard anything about that's supposed to be coming out. And just the smash success of the last movie. You know, if Godzilla vs. Kong was in theaters and there was no pandemic and all that, I mean, you gotta wonder, it would have made about 7 or maybe even 800 million. And for a Monsterverse movie, that is monumental. So, you know, I just take all those things into account, and it makes me feel a little bit more optimistic about another movie after this next one. But that little shadow of a doubt will never go away. You know, just so I'm always kind of preparing myself. That way, when the end does come, it doesn't hit me in the gut as hard as it would if I wasn't expecting it. So let me know in the comment section below your thoughts on the whole future of the Monsterverse. And that'll be it for this video. Until the next one, this is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.